Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Checking in. Can everybody hear me? Check. Give me a shout out in the comments if you guys can hear me okay. I might have to move an alternate mic if that's not working. Good to see everyone here. Yeah, I saw the comment. Air Force time. Yeah, I was debriefing myself on a few things that we're going to need to go over here. So we got Annika, D-Stew, you define all the members. I'll definitely be focused on the members' questions. So members, go ahead and throw that at me. We'll be doing a full review and a lot going on, obviously. First, right off the bat, I'm just going to throw this out there. 3 U.S. Marine casualties, 3 killed, 5 seriously wounded, the first confirmed U.S. fatalities. And man, tragic. We'll do a moment of silence at the end of this live. At the end, I'll probably let the last 30 seconds or minute or so just be silent before I actually end the stream. Just in solidarity, family members, thoughts and prayers are with them. But again, warfare is tragic. Warfare is terrible. Warfare, anybody who's been to war will tell you guys, it's not glamorous. And specifically for the families of those affected, my thoughts and prayers are with them. If you're a person of faith, whatever your personal beliefs are, at the end, we'll just do that moment of silence. I'll do a quick debrief on that though. So the incident there occurred March 1st. So it looks like it was this morning during Iranian ballistic missile strikes on Camp Arjafan, Kuwait. Marines are there and they're supporting logistics. Lots of operations obviously going on with Marines. The attack is said to have destroyed portions of an army unit managing accommodation. So again, we saw this in Afghanistan a lot as well, with the insurgents there would just lob whatever they could. In Afghanistan, it was mortars. So here, this was likely a ballistic missile coming in from the Iranian regime. And, in Afghanistan, they would do that. And there was, basically nothing you can do when they hit the barracks. They basically hit the barracks, which is tragic. Terrible there. President Trump did acknowledge and respond very quickly on Truth Social. He said that he vowed to avenge these Marines and noted that more casualties could be likely, but operations will continue until objectives are met. So full resolve. And in warfare, again, it's tragic, but casualties do happen. So again, very tragic day there. What I hope starts to happen to mitigate this is basically the full destruction of those ballistic missiles. Because again, they're going to pull out these ballistic missiles from God knows where, and they're cut off likely from command and control. They just have pre-planned coordinates in these ballistic missiles that they roll these things out and boop, they hit the button and it just goes to the last known coordinates, which are going to be bases, and specifically Kuwait. Kuwait has been targeted quite a bit recently with Shahed drones, ballistic missiles. So they are targeting Kuwait very strongly because Kuwait's been a longtime ally of the United States. They had a lot of pressure and influence in Iran or in Iraq. Iran did. So likely that's why we're seeing not as many attacks going into Iraq, because Iran, for the most part, has been buddy with Iraq. And at the end of the day, the militias that are in Iraq are essentially aligned with Iran, which is wild. And if any of you have been following the different embassies around the Middle East for the U.S., even the Pakistani embassy was overrun at basically the gates. A lot of insurgents came through those gates, locals that are, who knows, they're just all, throwing into whatever the latest crisis of the day is. They might not even know what they're going up against. They just see the U.S. as bad because they were told that. So we're probably going to see more of that at the different embassies around the Middle East. We got DD, we got Vince Fordell, Son of Darkstar, P Cocktail, the Chezik, everybody in the chat. If you're a member of the channel, I will respond to your questions first. And if you're a VIP, you'll get the top level of responses on that. So I appreciate you guys becoming members of the channel. It helps me do videos every day and it helps me do this full time. So thank you all for being here. Thanks to everyone for being here, but specifically the members. I really appreciate that. God bless the soldiers and overseas troops. The admiration goes out to them. Yep, I see that from Maria Madera Velez. Thank you, Maria. Really appreciate that. Context, though, for those attacks. Iranian asymmetric retaliation, despite there's been a lot of effective Patriot intercepts as well. So many effective Patriot intercepts, which have been huge. Let me see if I can, I can share my screen with you guys at some point. I might share my screen and show you kind of what I'm seeing with some of the intercepts going on. One second here. But right now, this is the Pakistani embassy. All right, I'm going to do a quick screen share and just see how it works. So we'll see how it goes. So bear with me here on this. All right, cool. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be good to go. All right, I'm going to pull up X while it looks like I'll be able to share, but I'm going to pull up X real quick. I want to show you if I can find the interceptions of a lot of these different missiles coming in. Let's see. This is... They're claiming that on the ground near southern Iranian city of Shiraz that they captured an MQ-9 Reaper firing an AGM-114 Hellfire air-to-surface missile. I don't know the validity of this. I mean, this could honestly be DCS for all we know, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys so you can actually see what I'm looking at as I'm talking through it. All right, cool. And you guys let me know if for some reason the chat... Cool. All right, guys, can you see the actual video itself? I got my producer checking in. Can you check and make sure that the video actually looks good as I'm sharing it? Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, so this is the Q9 Reaper drone launching an AGM-114 Hellfire. So let's see if we can get eyes on this. Okay, I think it's... All right, looks like that screen share kind of killed the killed the stream. Okay, let's see if we can get everybody back. So I just took it off of screen share. Okay, should be good to go now. So we'll keep going here. All right, cool. Now it looks like it's back. For some reason that screen share didn't work, but basically what was being shared, oh, now it just popped up, but I'm gonna have to work through that, guys. The CIA has entered the chat. So I think it just takes a while to buffer. I'm having my producer look into that, but I think it takes a while to buffer. But at the end of the day, they just showed an AGM-114 being launched by what looks like an MQ-9 Reaper. And so what that tells me with MQ-9 Reapers in play is that high value targeting is happening, because you're typically not going to have the Reaper there unless it's a high value target. So just, okay, cool. Can you go back and look at the stream during the screen share and just kind of see what happened and see where it went off the tracks? That'll help us for next time. Thanks for being patient, guys. I really want to be able to share my screen because then we can go to X and see some of the actual footage that's going on. But for now, we'll just skip that part. Okay, so we talked about the asymmetric status of Iran. That's going to be their main focus. So if you think about the MQ-9 Reaper, why it's operating right now in the southern part of Iran, I mean, right now, a lot of the actual government itself is trying to blend in with the population. And once the government blends in with the population, now it becomes a lot about boots on the ground as far as CIA, Mossad, those type of assets, and they can command the MQ-9 Reapers. So that's huge. I just saw a super thanks come in. That's so kind of you to do that. $49 super thanks. Totally not required, but very appreciated. Helps me do this full time. So I really appreciate that. But don't worry, we'll get that stream figured out for next time, because I want to be able to show you guys, how that actually works. So the threat level right now, so linking the asymmetric warfare, we talked about a little bit about why that's their focus. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thumbs up to the producer. She's going to look into what's up with the live streams and how we can actually share the screen. So that'll probably happen tomorrow. But again, when it comes to the asymmetric warfare, you can see that there's a threat level that's heightened in the US as well. So FBI, Department of Homeland Security, focused right now on a high alert status. High alert status is the only way to go at this point, because ideally there's no terror attacks in the US that are actually coming from Iran or ever total. But when Iran is focused on actually giving some sort of an asymmetric response in the US, that makes us have to really look at how they're able to still do that, how command and control could actually allow what they call these death squads or whatever to actually come in and strike. So the attack in Austin, Texas, very tragic. Again, thoughts and prayers with all those people as well. But when it comes to that, it could also be a sympathizer. So what we might see around the US, and why it's on all of us here, all of you in the stream, your friends and family, telling everybody to remain vigilant, because at the end of the day, there could be sympathizers, right? Everybody's watching this play out on the news. They're seeing the different strikes happening in Iran. And if they have mental illness or something's going on, then there's a chance they're going to act on their own, lone wolf, and we don't know if they're actually inspired by Iran. But it is really huge to make sure that we're all being vigilant. Thomas Kelch is a Max Ready Room member. Thank you for being here, my friend. Throw a question out, and I will specifically look for those questions from the members. All right, so threat level is on high alert right now, potentially watching for activation of sleeper cells, proxies, but really it's about sympathizers at this point for the most part. Sympathizers are going to come in and try to say, you know, they're officially sanctioned or whatever, but really they're just crazy people who are sympathizing with the regime. So we have to all be on alert. And that's another big reason why the Max Ready Room exists, is because I want you guys to come here, get the latest breaking information, and be able to actually have that with you and apply it to the rest of your night and the rest of your day. And staying vigilant is huge. So also possible rumors of assassination attempts on U.S. officials. Cyber operations have been ramped up as well. Pro-Iran hacktivists are now issuing threats to the U.S. power grid. They're issuing threats to different U.S. computer systems, basically, at this point. And that Texas bar shooting, tragic, thoughts and prayers with all the victims and their families. Again, could be linked to terrorism. The FBI is still investigating that as well. And then we got Bohada Field is in the Max Ready Room. Thanks so much for being here. Great to have you. And now there's going to be likely an increased monitoring of anybody who had the suspicion of being a part of an Iranian sleeper cell. That'll be something that'll be monitored very closely. Again, U.S. next steps. So I really want to, give you guys this, but it's totally my opinion on what I think could happen next. But I want to also share the fact that the Iranian Air Force, and this is actually coming from Bodhi. He's a fighter pilot. He's a consultant for the channel. He's also my dad. He was mentioning some really interesting things today. He was saying, hey, the Iranian Air Force hasn't turned a wheel. So no jets from Iran have gotten airborne. So that leads us to this. The fact that the U.S. Air Force is up there, it means F-22s, F-35s. No one in Iran in the Air Force wants to go up against the F-22, the F-35, F-15Es, F-16s. At the end of the day, this just is huge credit to the Iranian Air Force. Guys, you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to see if I can pull up that, just since we're figuring out the whole screen share thing, and I really want to show you if I can find that video. I'm going to go to X on my phone and just hold it up and see if we can watch that. So let's see here. Should work. But the Iranian Air Force hasn't turned a wheel. So, I mean, what does that mean? It means that no pilot in Iran wants to go up and fight the U.S. Air Force. Okay, I got the video here. I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see it. This is in the southern part. There you go. There's a Hellfire missile that, claimed to be a Hellfire missile. Still the validity of the video, we're still figuring that out. Because again, it could be AI. We're not sure. But it's definitely not an implausible situation for an MQ-9 to be up. The only thing I don't really think is correct about this video that seems weird is it just seems like this MQ-9 is a little low. Now, sometimes they could operate lower if they wanted to. But again, it being that low just makes me feel like it's a little bit of a potential for AI. So there you go, guys. I wanted to get you that video so you understood what I was talking about before. Looks like MQ-9's operating. And again, that's not a secret. Everybody knows the MQ-9 is the workhorse of the drones for the US. So that's going to be up there doing work, especially with high value targets. So there you go. So next steps, let's talk a little bit about sustained operations. And I think this is just my opinion, but at this point, we've seen the positioning, the USS Abraham Lincoln being near Israel. It looks like the USS Ford is somewhere in the Straits of Oman, somewhere out there. And this is all open source information that I'm finding on X, right? So when Iran launches those missiles towards Israel, like we've seen them do, they're actually launching in the vicinity of the USS Abraham Lincoln. So what they're doing without even knowing it is they're triggering immediate responses of self-defense. So that gives a just carte blanche. Gloves are off. Okay, Iran, you want to launch missiles anywhere close to the carrier? That's a carte blanche. Gloves are off. And that's another big part of why I think we're seeing what's going to be coming next. And this will likely be tomorrow's video, but I'll give you guys a little teaser because you're here in the live. Really appreciate it. Mr. Coffer, thank you for being a member. Richard Sherrick is also a member. Really appreciate you guys being here. Bruce Campbell, Really appreciate that. Says he's 5 miles away from Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. That's a great base. Flown amazing air shows there. It's probably one of my favorite air shows, honestly. Over the course of the 2-day air, I think it might have been a 3-day air show, but I think there was close to 1 million people over the course of those 3 days, which is amazing. But when I see what's going on right now, I see the launches of the different missiles, ballistic missiles towards Israel. Obviously, a lot of those are being taken down, which is huge. Here we go. Jeff Severson, Cadet Wing Commander. Good to see you crushing it still. Looking forward to break down U.S. Israel aircraft types usage TTPs thus far and phases forward. Awesome. So Jeff must have been in Detachment 105. That's where I got my start, became the Cadet Wing Commander. What a cool group of people. I mean, I just had a blast being an ROTC there. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate that super thanks as well. That's why I'm able to do what I'm doing, because of people like you. So thanks for the continued support, brother. But when we see these strikes launch, these ballistic missiles going over Israel, you got the USS Abraham Lincoln, right there. So this is going to trigger immediate self-defense responses. So in my opinion, this is a carte blanche. Hey, all the gloves are off. Everything is a target that belongs to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps right now is, suspect enemy number one. So striking down the IRGC. Also, we've seen a lot of propaganda, which I'm going to get to in a second. You guys know I got to talk about the propaganda. Got to highlight that propaganda. That's huge. But sustained operations likely until regime change. We've got some members coming in. Kirk Whipple, Peter Dill, Edsel, 2007, Iran insurgents took out a school in Mosul. Interesting. Okay, got it. Yeah, a PSYOP. So that leads to some of the propaganda, right? Because Iran's going to have PSYOPs. That's their number one objective okay, here's something interesting to think about, guys. So number one objective is PSYOPs, right? So why is Iran hitting all these Gulf partners in the region? Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, literally smacking Shahed drones into high-rise apartment complexes in Bahrain. Why are they doing that? Well, one of the big things is they want to pressure the Gulf states to tell the U.S. to back down. So as crazy as the regime is, they're also they understand how the human dynamics work of diplomacy. So they know that Saudi Arabia has a direct line to the U.S., Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, these different places where the U.S. has bases have direct lines to the U.S. So they're thinking to themselves, if they can actually cause enough pain to the Gulf states, then at that point, the Gulf states will ask the U.S. to back down. So that's what they're kind of focused on there. Bert has sent a super thanks. I appreciate that. Bert said, how are drone kills treated by USAF and U.S. Navy? Are they official air-to-air kills? Can you be an ace without shooting down a manned aircraft? I think this is new territory. And something that I saw is there's a different symbol for a drone shoot down. So there's a symbol for an aircraft shoot down, which is a star on the jet. So if you have a jet with 5 stars, boom, that jet was an ace. It doesn't mean the pilot that's flying it at the time was an ace. It means that jet itself has shot down 5 aircraft. If there were 5 stars on the jet itself. Now, what I saw a lot of, and I saw this in the F-15E, is if a drone is shot down, there's a different symbol. And we started using just a small little drone, like it would just look like a Shahed 139 drone that we painted on the side of the F-15E. When I was in the Chiefs, a drone was shot down just before I got there, and there was a drone that was shot down from my squadron, not from me, while we were in Afghanistan. So a little drone symbol got added to the jet, but that's a really good question. But sustained operations towards regime change, dismantle the entire government network at this point seems to be the number one objective. It looks like President Trump is open to talks with new leadership, but warns of unprecedented force if retaliation continues. And as you guys can imagine, those talks are likely going to be mainly a one-way focus at this point, because the U.S. and Israel are all in to eradicate that evil regime, to wipe them off the face of the earth because of what they've done to their own people and what they've done, to Americans for decades. Blood on their hands from Americans, Israelis, basically anybody in the West. And the way that they've done it is just so kind of gross. It's just gross. They've done it mainly with proxy armies. They've done it with asymmetric warfare, basically hiring terrorist thugs to go out and do their dirty work. So if you guys can, think about, negotiating with a terrorist, is that a good idea? For some reason, I feel like I've heard somewhere to never negotiate with terrorists. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing play out right now. And I don't expect a lot to come from a talk or a deal. So got to get some tea. Special thanks to my mom for giving me some tea to help out with the throat with all the talking I've been doing these last few days. So the risks here, one of the risks that always needs to be watched out for. We saw Vice President J.D. Vance come out a couple of days ago and say that regime change war that drags on for years and years is not an option. And that's what I love to hear, because I saw that, right? We saw the global war on terror, and so this needs to be something different. And here's some strategy I've been thinking of why the wait happened. So waiting to go in until 2 days ago, instead of going in right away as the protesters were being killed, which I know a lot of you are frustrated about. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and just say how you feel is valid. Okay. We got Captain Shriver here. Captain Shriver is one of the moderators. Please pay attention to what he's doing. He's keeping the chat moving. He's keeping us on track. So I really appreciate that, Captain Shriver. Thanks so much for being here, for being a moderator. That's huge. Let's see how many Iranian jets there are. That's a good question. I hope everybody in the chat responds to that, because something we hit at before is that the Iranian Air Force has literally gotten this many jets airborne from what I've seen, this many aircraft. So to me, that's just hats off to the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy. But the U.S. Air Force, I mean, think about it. You're an Iranian fighter pilot. You're sitting there. You're like, they just crashed an F-4 last week. They just crashed a Cobra helicopter as well. And someone's like, yeah, those F-22s that are up there, don't worry about those. Don't worry about those little guys. Just go. Just get in your F-4. I'm sure it'll be fine. Any fighter pilot that has 2 brain cells is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to take off and fly this thing to Kuwait. Just, squawk 7600, squawk the hijack code, and get yourself to Kuwait. That's probably the best thing to do at this point. China making a move against Taiwan. Victor, thanks for that question. Here's something I talked about with a friend the other day. So there was the rumors right before the actual engagement went down, right, with Iran. There was people out there saying, certain factions saying that General Raisin Kane didn't want to go to war because of stockpile issues with weapons. Now, first of all, that's just probably taken way out of context. Could have been a staffer in the back of a room when maybe a comment was made about stockpiles or something like that. And so I don't think General Raisin Kane ever said anything along those lines at all. The guy's a true warrior from everything I've seen. Everybody that I know that knows him is just super proud that he's in the position that he's in. And I think everybody would follow him into war at the drop of a hat. However, as a good general, when you think of a team of rivals, making sure that you are making sure the commander-in-chief knows about exactly the repercussions and the ripple effects. Because with warfare, if you guys, this side, if you've seen the book, that's kind of right there on the shelf, Sun Tzu, Art of War, it's all about thinking of the ripple effects. What are the cascading effects that could happen here? So cascading effects, with all these different weapons that Israel is going to have to defend against, the bases that the U.S. is going to have to defend against, that will deplete some of the stockpile. So it's worth the conversation. Hey, what's the stockpile like should China go in and try to take Taiwan? I mean, at this point, China is very focused on keeping the Straits of Hormuz open. So China needs that oil to keep flowing, keep their economy going, to keep the regime in power, to keep protests from breaking out across their entire country. They've got to keep the oil flowing. So if they make a move on Taiwan right now, then the U.S. just basically just flips, snaps their finger, and all the oil flow from Iran shuts down. Which Iran was the biggest supplier to China. China was their number 1 customer. So it would be very counterproductive for China to take Taiwan now. My opinion is China will likely use this as a way to try to maybe gain some clout, maybe try to show that, they're here to help, maybe save face a little bit, help out, keep the Straits of Hormuz open, and then move on Taiwan in a couple years. Once this all blows over, what this might do for them, though, is it might make them really beef up their oil reserves. I mean, they already have oil reserves, but this might make them beef up their oil reserves to a massive level so that if they do take Taiwan, here in a couple years, the rumor is 2027. That's when they're said to want to take Taiwan. Then they would have a massive oil supply that they wouldn't necessarily need the oil from the Straits of Hormuz for a while, but they're going to need it. they're going to need it at some point, I'll tell you that. So the Straits of Hormuz is probably one of the biggest things that keeps China from taking Taiwan. Strategic chess match right there. 4D chess taking place, and lots of negotiations likely happening as well. All right, so again, next steps, Iran's Navy. So strikes on Iran's Navy. This is something that I'm likely going to do for tomorrow's video. If you guys have any questions on Iran's Navy, or any questions in general, I would love to see, and I might work those into some of the actual video for tomorrow. Do I think China's air defenses will be sold on Temu now? They might need to be. If that oil stops flowing, Temu's going to stop flowing too. So, so China's very focused on keeping that oil open. Recent stories say CIA took U.S. tech execs into closed meetings, said China likely to attack in 2027. So again, that's great because, I mean, not great that they're going to attack. It's not what I'm saying. You guys know me. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's great to beef up these tech CEOs and tech execs to make sure that chip production is massive in the United States. Taiwan, oh man, that is going to be an epic problem for China. I'm just telling you, that is going to be wild. But here's the thing. When you look at China, very similar perspective to Russia. I mean, Russia basically just let loose their prisons. Everybody in prison, hey, go. You're free now. Go fight the war in Ukraine and go into the meat grinder. Well, China's mindset's going to be very similar, if not worse. China, imagine, 20, 30 million prisoners or whatever that number is. I think it's somewhere around there. Now they're going to go be on the front lines in Taiwan, basically cannon fodder. But when you have 20, 30 million people, that's going to be a really hard problem to solve. Yep. So those stories, taking those tech execs into back rooms, telling them to beef up chip production in the U.S., that's a great way to prep for that 2027 potential strike that the CCP is planning for. I mean, they're planning for it. This might delay it, though, now that they see how actually fragile their oil supply can be in the Straits of Hormuz, because there's going to be disruptions. There's disruptions right now. But this is why the U.S. is striking the Iranian Navy on an entirely new level. So looks like 9 ships from the Iranian Navy have been taken out. Iranian naval headquarters have been taken out. It's pretty funny. There's a post on Truth Social. I mean, I don't know your guys' politics. I think we've got a very solid leadership team right now, very solid. And I served under President George Bush, Obama, and Trump. I served under all 3 of those. And what I see right now are generals that are chosen for merit. So when I look at generals that are chosen for merit, way better at operating in warfare. So I'm just going to throw that out there. And the focus right now, taking out the Navy of Iran. I mean, that's huge. If you take down the Navy of Iran, here's what you do. You basically say, Iran, you can't shut down the Straits of Hormuz anymore, buddy. Hey, little buddy. Yeah, telling us you can threaten the Straits of Hormuz. Yeah, good job, little buddy. Not going to happen. So that's something that I really see. That's huge. And again, I want to say thanks to the members, Richard, Sherrick, everybody throwing in super thanks in the chats. That's just super kind. Honestly, that's just awesome. Helps me do videos like this. And again, I'm probably going to be doing a live every day, every night for the foreseeable future. Likely, I'll keep you posted though. I throw the posts on YouTube and I throw them on Instagram as well, but I do a YouTube post in the morning if I'm going to be able to do a live, but plan on me doing a live, indefinitely until something changes so we can get through all the different latest and breaking updates. Cause as you guys know, I'm releasing a video in the morning. So thank you so much for watching that video. But a lot of times here's what happens. So I'll do everything I can to get as much truth data as I possibly can. And then I build the script and then I shoot the video and edit it. I'm editing it all myself right now. And at this point, things are moving so fast that there's going to be more information that comes out after that video releases. And I try to give corrections or anything that's needed in the actual description of the video. And then in the lives, we can clean up. We can play cleanup. So just like this morning's video, we talked about the B-2 going in. Didn't know for sure, did the B-2 strike the Ayatollah? Was it just ballistic missile sites? Was it just going in and striking the different surface sites, or even GBU-57 penetrator bombs going into Natanz again to make sure that thing goes bye-bye? Got to make sure that goes bye-bye. And also Pickaxe Mountain. That's something that we'll probably be hearing about a lot here in the next few days, is Pickaxe Mountain, what's actually going on there. So at the end of the day, I think, you guys' support has been huge to keep me doing these. And it's my passion. So thank you for being here. But when it comes to the Iranian Navy, their fast boat threat has been what's been the focus of their regime for decades. So I actually trained multiple times going to different training events, mainly in Louisiana, and we would train strafing fast boats. So we would train, we'd see the different tactics, all the different things they do. They basically bring all their fast boats into an area, and then they do like an exploding cantaloupe maneuver. That's what they do, because they're trying to distract fighters. They're trying to distract anyone from hitting them. So that's kind of their main tactic. But if you take out their command and control, which we've done, taking out their command and control structure and taking out 9 of their biggest surface vessels, now you take off the ability to resupply those fast boats, because those fast boats got to go somewhere. They basically need a mothership, and they need to go somewhere where they could be in safety. So vent shaft renovations at Pickaxe Mountain. Yeah, I think it's going to possibly be a GBU 57 vent shaft renovation at Pickaxe Mountain. So here we go. It's something I want to hit on as well. Confirm. We need to confirm the use of what Iran is actually launching at Israel. So there's IDF reports coming in that saying that Iran launched ballistic missiles with cluster warheads during recent barrages. So basically that means you can't intercept them, because if it's just one missile goes up and hits, you can intercept that, right? But if it's a missile that goes up and then splinters into 5 different missiles, now you can't intercept that. So, or you can't intercept it as easily, I should say. There's still ways to intercept that. But what that is really good at is getting through defenses. So the warheads would open in mid-descent, and then they would disperse. They're saying that there could be 20 sub-munitions each, and this could spread over a 5-mile radius. So they could go up, they release, and they have a 5-mile impact zone, which is just, incredibly hard to keep up against. So that's something that we'll keep our eye on as that develops. But it's potentially similar to the June 2025 war back, a year ago. It looked like there was footage showing some cluster munitions as well. And now some of the latest waves over the last 12 hours are showing those cluster munitions that could be also being used against U.S. bases, because Iran's going to take the gloves off. They need to adapt and evolve, and the cluster munitions and the cluster warheads on ballistic missiles is their ace in the hole. Like we've talked about before, they don't have an air force to speak of, right? They are literally afraid to break ground with their air force, and they know they can't compete force on force. So they want to cause as much pain and chaos as possible. So for them, the cluster munitions is, that's going to be their go-to. It's just calling a spade a spade. That's what they're going to move to. There's no rules here. We saw Iran complain at the UN, about whatever, but they're not following rules themselves. So implications here, though, basically munitions and these munitions going into civilian areas definitely constitute a potential war crime. But again, they're claiming war crimes on all sides as well. So increased civilian risk. So basically hunkering down more, increased protection of military members who are in harm's way, so that hopefully we have as minimal casualties as possible. Again, in warfare, it's really hard to get 0 casualties. It's just very rare for that to happen. But the U.S. posture at this point, monitor for similar tactics. This could even influence rules of engagement for future strikes. So to me, if I'm in the war room, sitting there in the war room with Pete Hegseth, President Trump, Marco Rubio, that crew, a lot of them are thinking, well, what's the next level? If they're going to be launching cluster munitions, then what's the next level we need to go to stop that? And so a lot of that's going to be leadership strikes, ideally cyber attacks, also basically shutting down these things before they have any chance of getting off the ground. So that's going to be something huge that we could see. But at this point, it's about minimizing the damage of those cluster munitions. Prepare for the best, or actually, plan. You might as well just plan that they're going to be launching these on every single one of these things at this point. And that's a plan. You plan for the worst, you hope for the best. You might as well just plan that that's what they're going to be doing. Because again, they're going to use asymmetric warfare to the absolute max possible. Casualties and damage, what we're seeing right now, what's being reported, we're seeing numbers of over 200 killed in Iran, 700 injured. And again, Iran is pushing the girls' school in Manab, Iran. They're saying that 80-ish girls were struck. And again, that is their propaganda machine going into full effect. A sortie tally estimate coming from Jeff Severson. Yeah, I'll think about that as we're talking here, but likely no official sortie estimate's going to come out, because you don't want to tell the regime how many sorties you're doing a day, right? Because then they can plan for that. But at the end of the day, Iran's propaganda machine going into full effect. saying that these girls were hit at the school. Again, that's what they're going to say. That's what they're going to do. Were they hit? We don't know. But at the end of the day, command and control structures will likely be embedded with civilian population. Even the Ayatollah's actual meeting place was in a populated area in Tehran. But it looks like there were pinpoint strikes from Israel that went in and took down the Ayatollah himself. So in addition to the video I made this morning, if you watch that video about halfway through, I talk about the likelihood also of Israel doing pinpoint strikes on the actual compound itself. And from all the research I'm doing right now, it looks to me like that is likely the case. That's likely what we saw happen there. So pinpoint strikes, whatever it takes at this point to minimize CDE and collateral damage. But I'm just letting you guys know right now, the Iranian regime, the IRGC, they literally drove SWAT vans through their own people protesting. So you think that they have any care about building some type of command and control structure underneath that girls' school or having any type of civilian shield? I mean, that's their go-to. That's their number one go-to. And then they said they hit a carrier, and that is completely false as well. We'll do some debunking. I love doing this debunking. So here's some direct debunking that I did today in today's video. Might as well share it with you guys. It's just fun. This is actually a post from U.S. Central Command. Let's see if I can show you guys that. So this is a post from U.S. Central Command. I'm going to go ahead and read this just so we can debunk all the different BS we've heard so far from the Iranian regime. They claim that they've killed 50 U.S. service members, so that's a lie. They also claim right now the confirmed casualties right now, 5 injuries, 3 deaths, very unfortunate, but it's not 50. But again, the Iranian propaganda machine in full swing. The IRGC also claims that a U.S. Navy ship was struck by a missile. And then CENTCOM said, no U.S. Navy ship has been struck. The Armada is fully operational. And then Iran went on to say, imagine this, Iran talking trash, weird. They went on to say the Iranian regime is claiming severe damage at multiple U.S. bases. Lie. Damage to U.S. installations was minimal and has not impacted operations, which is huge. And then this is a historic first, guys. Check this out. I don't know if you guys can see this image. This is the Lucas attack drone. So the Lucas attack drone is the U.S. version of the Shahed 136. Okay, Shahed 136, that's the move that Iran thinks was their, basically their saving grace. They thought that was going to save the regime by launching their mosquito swarms towards the U.S. But now the U.S. has countered that with their own Lucas drones, very, very capable, way more avionic heavy than what likely the Shahed drone has. So basically given some of their own medicine. And I think that's great. When you look at a lot of the different ways that Iran is going to attack asymmetric warfare, great. Okay, we're going to meet you with asymmetric warfare. So that's what I see the War Department doing right now, which is great to see. Casualties, we talked about that. We talked about the propaganda machine in full effect in Iran. I mean, they're going to continue that, so be on the lookout for that. They basically want to sway public opinion, and they want to sway the public opinion of the Gulf states primarily. If they can get the Gulf states all standing up saying stop, then that's what they think can actually save the regime. But at this point, it doesn't look like it's stopping. And oh, by the way, Iran just showed the Gulf states that they're willing to launch dozens of Shahed drones at them, and they have no care for them either. So I think the Gulf states are smart at the end of the day. Saudi Arabia is a very smart, if you look at their leadership, you look at even their military, they're very smart. At the end of the day, they know what Iran's doing. They know what's going on here. Okay, so we got Captain Shriver. Man, Captain Shriver is keeping up with everybody. Thank you for doing that, because as I go on my rambles, as I go on my soapboxes, I miss a lot of the things that are being said. So there we go. Let's see. I'm going to say hi to some people here. DG Glass, Robin Hood, Murrah, Tim Ross, Chris Topher, Popo Giante. I'll basically read anybody's name on here. I'm basically like Ron Burgundy, just reading the teleprompter at this point. So I've seen some people have some pretty funny names, and I've honestly just read the names. I don't always read the comments. If I know it's something insane, I'm not going to just read the comments. But when it comes to your names, I'm probably going to read it like Ron Burgundy. I'm just being honest. Are they going to open their airspace for us now? I think you're talking about, this is a great point. You're talking about the UK. Thomas Kelter, he's a member, is asking about opening the airspace. And this is the UK point I wanted to hit on today. I hit on it a little bit in today's video, but I'll give you guys the inside scoop, a little more inside scoop, because you're here on the live. And I want you all to get a lot of value out of this. So UK, man, I mean, I've been in the UK. I've done joint operations with the UK. I know a lot of really great Brits, like a lot of people from Britain that are awesome. Their sense of humor is a little weird, but we won't go there. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the UK is doing something to save face to someone. Okay, so a lot of things that they're probably doing are basically trying to snub President Trump a little bit, because a lot of the people, if you look at the Munich Security Conference, there's a lot of hoity-toity people there that they fund a lot of the different things going on around the globe. Pretty much they're trying to get their hands in everything. They're trying to influence everything. So Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, likely has some bosses behind the scenes that we're not being told about. And so he's got to come out, put up a stink. Maybe behind the scenes, he's doing some help. He's not being as hard to work with as what we're seeing in the media. But a lot of times, these politicians have bosses that we don't know about that, are behind the scenes. So that's what I see from Starmer, because at the end of the day, he's in a ballistic missile threat zone in Iran. If not right now, within a couple months, Iran's going to have adaptations. I mean, they've got cluster munitions at this point, and they're not going to stop. They're not going to, not shoot those at England. They're going to shoot them at U.S. bases. They're going to shoot them at Gulf partner nations, likely, obviously at Israel. And then England's the next one on the list, guys. I mean, if we're just calling a spade, Iran designated England and England's military as a terrorist organization. They're not exactly keeping old Starmer on their Christmas card list, right? So it's something else. It's not necessarily that the UKs and the Brits don't agree with getting rid of Iran. There's something else going on behind the scenes. So I want to give you guys context for what's going on with Diego Garcia, why U.S. jets were only a limited amount, I think, landed there, and then Fairford couldn't be used for actual strikes. But we've seen things like this before. Some of the Gulf states actually have had some rules. This was like 10. I'm dating myself here. There was rules that the jets could not launch with weapons on board from Qatar, to land somewhere else, arm up, and then go fight. So it's very weird. That's why we based out of Bagram. We were like, all right, fine. Like, we're not going to be based out of here. We're based out of Bagram. But why did they do that? I mean, the reason why they did that at the time is they know there's insider threats. They know Iran had a lot of the proxy armies in the region. So they didn't want to have to deal with that, right? They don't want to deal with that. So at the end of the day, it's all about leverage. And it's all about, reading between the lines as to what's going on there. Iranian rhetoric. President Pezeshkian, who's still said to be at the moment, has called these strikes a great crime that will never remain unanswered. The IRGC vowed most ferocious offensive in history against us and Israel is coming now, promising crushing revenge on all interests. So if that doesn't, help you guys understand where we're going from here, I don't know what does. Because at this point, we've got a leadership change. It looks like a new Ayatollah is what I'm calling him. The new Ayatollah has taken over after the Ayatollah Khamenei was confirmed killed in a strike in Tehran. 3-member interim council involved Masoud Pezeshkian, Judiciary Chief Gholam Hossein Mohseni Elaiji, I believe, Guardian Council member Ayatollah Ali Reza. And I think the Ali Reza guy is the one who actually took the actual position just recently, as of the last few days, or of the last few hours. You can tell I'm getting late in the stream. I'm making up words at this point. So Iranian retaliation is going to continue. Ballistic missiles, likely seeing a lot of those warheads that just hit and expand. So definitely a possibility there. We covered that. I'm going to move to some questions now. So before we go, we are going to do a moment of silence at the end. I'll basically just stay here in the chat for a minute after the stream ends, and I'll stay here with you guys as we pay our respects to the 3 fallen Marines and also the 5 that are injured, because terrible, very terrible situation. But I do want to take some questions first before we get to that. We got a little more time here. So if the members want to throw in the questions first, that would be great. All right. Yeah, who's keeping track of life expectancy for replacement leadership in Iran? I know. I mean, you would think there'd be more deals, but that shows you the level of what happens when religious extremism gets involved. Again, when it comes to religion, it's awesome. It just shouldn't be intertwined into politics. Religion shouldn't be governing. Religion is meant to guide, and religion is meant to help people live a better life. What countries do you think are working behind the scenes? This is AU Badger. Well, every country working behind the scenes, honestly, at this point. Like, everyone's got a stake in the game. Everyone's got skin in the game. If you look at, even the Gulf states, they're all working behind the scenes. So yeah, lots of countries that have a stake in this. New Ayatollah already. We have the opportunity. Yeah, I mean, new Ayatollah coming in. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes as far as negotiations, as far as, who is actually negotiating with who. Is the actual Pezeshkian president still kind of in charge, or has someone that might help with the transition, like Reza Pahlavi, will that person actually, step in and transition the government? Kirk Whipple said, do you think we had CIA on the ground in Iran before the strikes? My opinion, I hope so. I don't know for sure. I hope there was CIA involved, because at the end of the day, getting that intelligence, and this is something that I talked with Mike Baker about a little bit. We did a couple videos together. Getting that intelligence is invaluable, because it's going to tell you things that you would never know otherwise. You can get signals intelligence. Signals intelligence means intercepting different signals. Signals intelligence is huge, but human intelligence is human. And human is, understanding patterns of life, understanding where someone's going to be. And that's just huge when it comes to, the Ayatollah. Where is he going to be? Where is the meeting going to take place? How do we minimize collateral damage? So getting all that information from someone who's on the ground, I think it's smart. But yeah, I have no idea. I have no clue who was on the ground. I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point that Mossad was involved. All right, so let's see. Implications. Yeah, we talked about the cluster munitions. That was something I wanted to cover with everybody. Leon, R3D, Tomahawk, Sarah, Max, Doan, Harry, everybody here. If any other members have any questions, I would love to get to those. Or if you have a super thanks, I'll answer that. Ultimate thank you to the Americans lost in the name of freedom. So many thoughts and prayers to their families, to all those in Iran as well. Thank you, Max AB, for your insight. Jeff Severson, thank you. That's so kind, man. I really appreciate that. That's so well said. I don't think anybody could say it any better at this point. That was great. Captain Shriver is keeping everybody involved here. I love it. Captain Shriver, keep going, man. That's awesome. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, I've heard a few of this, MiG-29 being shot down. I've heard that. However, I don't have any confirmation on that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that is something that, is the case, but I'll look into it. Captain Shriver also mentioned that he's got some ministries, some things that he's up to. Look him up. Look up that Max Shriver Ministries. That's great. And again, all religions are welcome here on this channel. I think, religion is great. It's something that is very personal. I'm a Christian myself, but I think, faith is very personal. So I just support anyone out there, whatever religion you are. When we do the moment of silence at the end, pray in your religion, pray with your family and your friends for the U.S. military, the Israeli military, and all the different partners. Appreciate you guys. All right, so let's see. We got 820th Red Horse is here. Oh, nice. Red Horse Squadron. That's awesome. Love that. Appreciate it. John is saying, let's see. Yep. Lots of comments coming in about Iran. Love seeing that. Love that you guys are so interested. And again, warfare is incredibly dangerous. And and one of the things I want to hit before we go and do the moment of silence is warfare isn't glamorous. There's awesome systems involved, like this sweet F-15E up here, right? But anybody who's been to war, who is trained for war and knows the implications, it's very clear that warfare isn't glamorous. But sometimes there's people you can't be reasoned with, and you literally have one option left. And that's what I always thought when I was in combat. So I flew 70 combat missions, and I realized the people that were on the other end of those weapons, that we were, dropping bombs, we were strafing, we were doing basically things to protect the coalition. The people on the other end, there was essentially couldn't be reasoned with. So a regime that's running over their own people with SWAT vans, executing them with snipers in the streets, I think it's pretty clear at this point that really there's not a lot of negotiation that can be done, because they've done so much to their population that I think even the Iranian regime knows that if they, let's see, how do I say this? if they go down, if let's say their power falls and then their palaces are torn down, whatever deal they strike, they're not striking deals with the members of the families that they murdered, the throats they slit, and the people they killed. That'll have to be answered by the people, in Iran, the free people of Iran, who hopefully here in the next few weeks will have a country of their own, a country they can be proud of, and a life they can be proud of, and a life of safety. So my thoughts and prayers are really with the Iranian people here. And I just want to, before we go to the moment of silence for the members, the Marines that were lost and injured, the Iranian people, the free Iranian people, the courage to stand up and go head to head with that regime who's sniping you in the streets, who's running over your comrades with SWAT vans. That is real courage. And this is something I've been thinking of, and you guys can tell me if you like this analogy or not. But this is an American Revolution moment for them. This is like the U.S. fighting and standing up against the British, saying, no, we will not have tyranny. The brave men and women in America that stood up to that tyrant, the king, it's the whole reason why the U.S. exists. It's the whole reason why the U.S. has the powerful military that we have. It's the whole reason why we can go in and take down Hitler, and this evil Iranian regime that, again, guys, I know there's been a lot of comments coming in from, a lot of different political areas saying that no new wars, and I get it. There's going to be political rhetoric, right? And then anything that President Trump does, they're going to say is bad. But I think logic, if you literally sat some of these people down and you were like, let's logically think about this. Should radical Islamic clerics have ballistic missiles that now can have, ballistic missiles, but even ballistic missiles that can have warheads that are nuclear attached to them? Does anybody think that's a good idea? I don't think so. And the thing with Iran that makes it different is the fact that the Iranian people are incredibly capable. The Iranian people are ready to stand up and take their country back. Well, I think Timothy Davies is you're kind of spamming the chat, my friend. So let's stop with all that. Let's see, Captain Shriver, if you can kind of take care of that, lasso that dude in and get the spam out of the chat. Appreciate you. Looks like you just did it. You're way ahead of me. Yeah, he did. Yeah, Captain Shriver stepped in. Captain Shriver stepped in with, I'm going to say he had a 9-iron, and he was just like, said goodbye to that dude. That was funny. Everybody was thinking it as the moderator came in and took care of business. Got yoinked. He got yoinked by the moderator. That's awesome. And so at the end of the day, there's going to be propaganda politically going against the party that's in power, which I think is super solid leadership right now. Everything I've seen, all the friends I have flying F-35s, F-22s, literally all of them are super grateful for the current military leadership. They feel like they have the ability to protect themselves, and they're not going to get some, weird court martial because they were just doing what they had to do to stand up and protect themselves and protect their wingmen. So all the information that I have coming in from all my friends that are flying fighter jets right now, literally could be airborne right now, flying sorties, hats off to them. They're saying that this leadership is incredible and it's a golden age. They're the ones saying it's a golden age. So just throwing that out there. I think that's huge. Yeah, let's all take a moment and have a, say goodbye to that spammer. Finally, we got him out of here, man. All right, guys. So there we go. I hope you all are doing well. I hope your families are doing well. It's super good to see everybody here. And let's just, like I said, whatever religion you are, if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you're Christian like me, whatever your religion is, let's take a second. Let's do a 30-second to a minute moment of silence. And if you're able to stay in the chat, great. I think we can all be here for each other. All of us, there's thousands of us here. I'm showing 7,500 of us here right now. We'll do a minute of silence for the fallen Marines. And what I'm going to be praying for is the fact that our military stays as safe as possible, and that our military men and women that are out there right now feel the confidence and the support of their faith and of all of us back here at home. So I appreciate all of you here. Thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and move into the moment of silence here in about 10 seconds. And if you can stay, say a prayer of your own in your faith, whatever your faith is. I support that. So here we go. Start the moment of silence for the fallen Marines and their families right now. Thanks for everybody for staying in the chat. Super grateful for all you guys. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you. Key takeaways will be coming out in tomorrow's video. I want to say that I appreciate everybody being here. Thanks so much. You guys are awesome. Big support for the Iranian people. Iranian people, if you're watching this, keep going. You guys are awesome. Super proud of you all. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.